go, Steve. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Apparently you are. You're in your car, so I don't know where you're going.
Nothing. Wild horses.
You dressed up for me too.
I know, right? I got my best hoodie for Jane Elliot.
Jane Elliott's with us.
I put pants on instead of.
Thank you, Jane.
I put pants on for you. I put a little mascara on for you.
I know, Jane. Thank you.
In a hoodie. Thanks.
I know.
That's right.
My goodness. So, well, you were back. You've revisited our fair show for the Tracy came back for the holidays. Was that it? You've been coming back for the holidays.
She came back to console Laura, whose daughter Lulu was going to a long-term
correct
care facility.
Right.
That's right.
That's why she came back.
I see.
She was actually in the United States visiting her son in California.
Oh, okay. So where is Tracy spending her time these days?
Amsterdam.
Oh, that's a nice choice. Why did she pick Amsterdam?
Neither of you watch the show.
No, we don't. We've never seen it.
We're kind of famous for that. We're kind of famous for not watching the show.
that.
I don't know.
So Tony Geary's in Amsterdam. Tell him hi for us, please.
I will.
We love him.
Yeah. What brought Tracy to Amsterdam?
Luke.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's art imitating life.
Yes, apparently it is.
Right. So we always love to, obviously, we talk about the show, but moreover, we want to learn more about someone that we know fairly well already, but learn even more about, like, how'd you find your way into this? Tell, first of all, where are you from, Jane?
Wait, what? How'd I find my way into what? What's the
show business?
Show business.
Yeah, we're going back to the beginning.
We're
Jane.
going back.
Where are you from originally?
New York City.
New York City. And as a kid, did you like the arts? Were you doing something that had involved?
It was something I always knew I was going to do. I came in with it, and it was just a question of how long it was going to take to get there.
Was that because of, like, were your parents involved? Did you have
No, not at all. My father was a lawyer. My mother was a homemaker. Nobody in my family was in show business.
So, but as early as you can remember, you were like, that's what I'm doing.
When I would fantasize about having a career when I grew up, it would be either a nurse or an ice skater. But I knew I was an actor.
Interesting.
Oh, no,
wow.
That's cool.
Did you have practice ice skating, though?
No. I mean, I lived in Manhattan, and I used to go ice skating all the time at Wallman Memorial Ice Rink.
Right, of course.
And I watched the ice skating on the Olympics, and I loved that.
Sure.
And I took ballet for years, and there's a correlation between ballet and ice skating. But no, I don't know. I don't know.
So when did the acting really start then? Was it in high school? Was it in college, or did you go to acting class?
I started working. I wanted to go to drama school in England instead of go to college. And I was lucky enough to have a family friend who knew an agent. And the agent, I was 16, the agent knew the woman I had to audition for the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts. And so he was going to help me get into Lambda. I was too young. They wouldn't accept me. They didn't accept foreign students under the age of 18. But meanwhile, I had gotten to know this agent, and he started to work for me in my senior year of high school. And my father wouldn't let me go on auditions or work at all. I had to finish, since I wasn't going to go to college, I had to finish high school. And then as soon as I was done with high school, this agent started sending me out, and I got work.
Wow. So, and at that point, were you taking acting class and stuff like that? Or was it just, no. It was just you were so damn charming, they had to hire you.
It was captivating. I was just captivating.
Right.
No, I had studied I had taken dance classes and voice classes for years. My father would only let me take 2 of the 3. And I figured that the voice and dance were muscles that I needed to build up, and I needed to do continually. And the acting I could pick up anytime.
Sure.
So, and this agent very smartly said, I don't want you to study yet. I don't want you to lose the natural ability that you have. So just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll discuss studying later. And I never studied.
That's pretty incredible, Jane.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really incredible.
It's divine guidance. Do you know what I mean? When you're on a path, it just, that there was nothing I could do to make it happen, and there was nothing I could do to stop it from happening.
So when you started working and you got on the set, were there people that you kind of saw like, wow, I see this guy, he's successful, or this woman, she's awesome? Did anyone kind of mentor you? Did you pick up anything from people that you were watching specifically?
Always, I still do. I still watch people. I still learn from other actors and choices that they make. I was lucky enough, my first big job was in London, and I did a British television production of William Minge's Come Back Little Sheba with Martin Balsam and Betsy Blair. And I was 17 years old. I was by myself in London.
Wow.
I had gone on vacation with my brother. He gave me a plane ticket to London as a graduation present from high school. And he and I went to London together to go and see the world. And I went to see this agent in London that was affiliated with my agent in New York. And he sent me up for this job. Wow. And I ended up going to work.
Wow, it's crazy.
And I think the only reason why it worked was because I was too stupid to know better. I didn't, maybe stupid is a hard word. Innocent. I was too innocent to know better, to know that this shouldn't have happened, and you're way out of your league. And I just didn't think about it. I just put one foot in front of the other and did what was asked of me.
Do you remember, like, well, because always when you think about like child actors and you think about their natural talent and they're just listening and responding, and you're like, oh, but then you notice, if you track the time that they become self-conscious and they start thinking about that. Do you remember, how did that happen for you? Because it sounds like when you started working, maybe you were still in that, just, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to be present. When did you get self-conscious?
I didn't.
Wow.
I didn't. I just, for me, the trick of acting is to pay attention to the other guy. And as long as you are paying attention to the other guy, you're never going to get self-conscious. You can't.
Well, sure.
Because you're conscious about the other person. And that's always been the way I've worked. I've always worked feeding off of somebody else, which is why this working at GH under COVID protocols are so difficult for me, because you don't see anybody until the very last minute.
Right.
And I feed on the actors that I'm working with. I feed on what they bring to the table, and I drink it up. So when I don't get to see what's happening until the camera rolls, it half of my performance doesn't get to develop. It doesn't get to grow the way I would have grown if I could see a face.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And a lot of times our rehearsals aren't full rehearsals anyway.
Right.
And now you have a mask on. So it's like, what are we doing? Until you take.
Working with new actors that I don't know at all. And this is who are you? What are you playing?
Right.
Yeah,
and then they take a mask off and they go, oh, that's who you are. And then you see them in the hall and they say, hi, good morning. And I go, which one is that?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's awful.
But I imagine, though, because you are so adept at reacting to people, one of the things that I've always loved about our genre is that it is, there is that live element of like, oh, I'm discovering this in the moment. And now, because we are literally having, even less preparation than before, it truly is in the moment. Right.
We don't have a choice. Yeah.
So is there something, is there something exciting about that, or just like, obviously you've been doing this for long enough where there aren't too many surprises left, right?
I worked with Wally Kurth, Leslie Charleston, Nancy Grahn. These are people that I've worked with for decades.
Yeah.
So a lot of the work is already done. A lot, the air between us is so thick and so full and so rich.
Oh yeah.
Filled with history on camera and off camera. So a lot of that was easy. It was working with newer actors that it was hard to get anything going.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I've always loved about, the time, just knowing your work and being around you. You had such clearly defined relationships with the people in your orbit. And I think that's something that soaps allow for, is that relationship builds and percolates, and they're
Time is
Time,
spent.
yeah,
right. Yeah.
totally.
When did you come,
Me or Steve?
Steve?
91.
91.
Yeah, I
And
think you
Brad?
let, and Bradford was
2006.
yeah.
6.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because when I first came in, obviously it was the Quartermaines. So, and I was a Quartermaine, and it was awesome to watch. Because I was there right, as I was still there when David Lewis was there,
Mhm.
and to watch you and David Lewis was amazing. You guys are so fun together. It was so fun
He was amazing.
to watch. He was an amazing guy. But let's go back for a second. When did you end up coming out to? Was there a point where you're like, your agent was like, "Hey, you should go to L.A. or you should go out to
Yeah.
California and really try to pursue other things, movies?"
Or did you go from London back to New York?
I went from London to California.
Oh,
I
okay.
flew
Wow.
over the pole and tested for a I can't remember what they call them, a term contract at Universal, which is when they used to. Now this is 1964. And they used to put actors under contract to the studio,
Right.
and you would get a weekly salary of $175 a week or $200 a week, and they would assign you to jobs. They would put you on the Alfred
Right.
Hitchcock Hour, or they would put you in a movie, or they would.
So cool.
And they decided once again that I was too young, and because I wasn't 18 yet, and I was going to have a chaperone on the set,
Mm.
and they didn't want to have to worry about all of the child actor protocols that they would have to adhere to. Even though I graduated high school and I just, come by myself from London to California, it still didn't matter. There are very strict laws protecting child actors, and I was theoretically a child actor because I was only 17. So I went back to New York. I ended up on Broadway a year later.
It's amazing.
Just so happens. And,
I know, it was, and I never stopped and thought about any of it. I didn't
Right.
stop and think about it. If I had stopped and thought about it, I would have gotten scared, and I
Right.
wasn't scared. So I did that. And then after that,
which show was that, if you don't mind me asking?
The Impossible Years with Alan King. It was a comedy. And then after that, I had a best friend who had moved to California, and I went out to California to visit her, and I went, oh, wait a minute. This is great. There's trees and grass and sunshine. I mean, I was raised in Manhattan with concrete and cement. That, that was my life, concrete and cement.
Right.
Going to the country was walking up to Central Park with my roller skates. So the thought of living in the burbs, which is what LA was to me, was dreamy. And I thought, I have to move to California. And I didn't move to California for the work. I moved to California for the lifestyle. I wanted to get out of living in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something you said that just registered with me is you were living in London in 1963, 1964.
Yeah.
Like, when you think of the Beatles, that's the year.
Mm-hmm.
Was that something that you had experienced? Like,
I was so focused and driven on my work that was childish stuff, that I was not a Beatle fan. I wasn't into, rock and roll, and I was just driven on getting work, starting my career, and supporting myself. I wanted to earn a living. It was about earning a living. I wanted to be able to live on my own. I didn't want my parents to pay for me anymore. I needed to get a job.
Right.
And were your parents like excited? Were they nervous? Were they?
My father would have preferred I go to law school. He would have, he wanted me to get a college education and then and be a lawyer or something like that. It wasn't until I won an Emmy for General Hospital that he acknowledged me as a professional, that he really took me seriously as an actor, and that was 1980. And I'd been doing it for 16 years.
Wow.
And that's when he took me seriously.
Well, that shows your your confidence and I mean, that shows some real fortitude on your part. So well done.
Thank you.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes. So when you were out in California and you realized, oh man, this is what life should look like. And I mean, because going through your IMDb, I mean,
The Elvis movie.
well, there's that. Yeah.
Maybe the most fun I ever had.
That's
Yeah?
what I want to talk about.
Maybe the most fun I ever had.
Where did you shoot this?
Sister Barbara? Sister?
Barbara.
Yes.
Universal, on the Universal
Universal.
back lot.
Did you get so? But that wasn't through the Universal thing. You booked that individually.
That was later. This is
Right.
now later. This
Yeah,
is
okay.
now 1967. So it's like 3 years later, 4 years later. And I turned it down because there again, I was not an Elvis fan. And I envisioned envisioned being in an Elvis movie.
Mhm.
And and they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. They offered me a 4-movie deal.
Wow.
If I would do this movie, they would give me 3 other movies to do, which they never did, by the way, because they can promise you anything, as we all know, and then
Yes.
they don't have to live up to it. Just you do. You have to live up to
Sure.
it. They don't have to.
Right.
Right.
Amazing.
The option is always to their benefit. Never.
Right,
to
of
their
course.
So Jane, but at that point, was Elvis doing a lot of movies? Was he
It was
cranking
his
a lot
last
out?
movie. This was his last movie. He
Okay.
had
Wow.
a contract to fulfill, and this was going to finish his obligation to. I think it must have been to Universal. It was going to finish his obligation. It was his last movie. He was never going to do another movie. He was going back to music.
Mm.
So it was.
So he had done a lot of movies though.
He had.
So was there the stigma like, oh, it's an Elvis movie because he's done so much, it's saturated. He's done 55,000 movies in 4 years.
I don't know what the
Okay.
perception was.
Fair
I know
enough.
my perception was I was a snotty New York elitist, and it was it was an Elvis Presley movie.
Yeah.
It was not what I envisioned for myself. But may I say that it was one of the highlights of my career. And I'll tell you a story. When we started work, Mary Tyler Moore had a lower director's chair. I had a lower director's chair. Barbara McNair had a low director's chair, and Elvis had a high one. And I said to him, I'm so embarrassed telling you this story, but I said to him, aren't you embarrassed sitting up that high? To which he replied, I am. And he went and got a guest cast chair. He got off the high chair, put it aside, and went and got a low chair and put it with the rest of us. Wow. And he told me a story about, and a couple of years later, I asked him about how did he not slap me right across the mouth when I said that. And he said, because he learned a really difficult lesson very early on, that his celebrity can bring the worst out in people sometimes. And he said he remembered he was having a party at his house, and the doorbell rang, and he answered it, and there was somebody there, and he welcomed them in, and he said the guest wanted a tour of the house. And he said, oh, that's great. I'll find someone who can take you around the house. And this person went off on him for not taking him on the tour of his house while he's hosting a party. And Elvis realized that that people responded negatively to they expected the worst from him.
Sure.
And I was in that group. I was going to knock him down a peg or whatever.
Yeah.
I was going to make myself feel comfortable by making him feel uncomfortable. I'm not proud of it, but he forgave me. So I better forgive myself.
Yeah. I mean, because we go to Graceland with GH a lot now, and the stories that we hear are very similar to the story you told of, like, he would have people hanging out at his front gate, and he'd literally walk down there and talk to people for 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah.
Like, it was, he just seems like a great guy. I don't know, but I love Elvis. So, I'm so excited.
He was a great guy.
Oh,
He was
sweet.
really a great guy. He was one of a kind.
Well, and when you were to be on set with him and Mary Tyler Moore, who was
let's not forget her.
She was pretty high up. That was around that time. wow, did you get to see sides of them? And we're not looking for like dirt or anything, but like, did
Yeah,
the
you
just,
are.
No, we're
well,
not.
no, but like in terms of, but in terms of like the camaraderie that you develop on a set, were they that available to you that you guys developed that kind of chemistry?
Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was, it was a 2 month shoot, maybe 2 or 3 months shoot. And, Barbara and Elvis and I partied and hung out and had fun. And Mary and I knit and talked about child rearing and, it was, I floated both groups. I was
Sure.
with the Whoopi friends, Elvis and Barbara. And then I was in the more serious group with Mary and her years-long makeup artist who had traveled with her from place to place to place to place. She was wonderful as well. She was wonderful. She and Elvis did not have a chemistry. They were really born of different cloth, the two of them. Barbara had music. Barbara loved music. So, Elvis and Barbara used to sing together all the time.
That's awesome.
It was the most fun I've ever had. There's a scene in the movie where we're having a block party, and it's on the Universal back lot. And there's hundreds of people, and there's barbecues, and it's like a carnival.
Yeah.
And we actually were making burgers and serving them. And I mean, it was all real, everything that was happening. And somehow we managed to get the lines in when we needed to get the lines in, but the party was happening. It was a party, and it was a night shoot, and we had the time of our lives.
Oh, that's amazing. How old were you then, Jane? Early 20? 20s?
No, less.
Oh, wow.
1965. I was born in 47, 67. I was 18.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
That's amazing.
No, 20. I was 20. It was 67. 20.
So coming into that movie, was it did you just have an audition that knocked it out of the park, or did you have a body of work? How did one get in an Elvis movie at that point in your career?
I don't think I auditioned. I don't remember auditioning.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
And did it have how was the movie received? Did it affect your career? Do you remember that?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
It didn't affect.
It was a throwaway. It was. I think it gets more attention now, years later, than it did at the time.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, and at that point when you're did you register as a 20-year-old? Like, I'm in a movie with Mary Tyler Moore and Elvis Presley. That's kind of cool.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I think I was more impressed with Mary Tyler Moore than I was with Elvis.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because Mary Tyler Moore had a career that I would want to have.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. You couldn't imagine yourself headlining in a Vegas show?
No.
Oh, okay.
So what yeah. What was your first foray into daytime? What show?
Oh, in 1965? Yeah, 1965. I auditioned for a soap opera, an ABC soap opera that Alan Pultz. Were you there when Alan Pultz?
I was with Alan Pultz, yes.
Alan Pultz was an AD on it.
Oh, wow.
Joe Hardy was the executive producer. Did you work for Joe Hardy?
No, I know the name though. No.
Yeah. Joe Hardy was the executive producer, and it was called Flame in the Wind.
Ooh.
And it did exactly what a flame in the wind does.
Goodbye.
Right.
Out.
Oh man.
Leslie Charlson was on it as well.
That's amazing.
Wow. She must be somewhat jealous of your Elvis encounters.
Yes.
Because we've heard of hers, but it speaking of a flame in the wind, but did that experience, do you remember how that experience of daytime?
Hold on, wait 1 second. Jane, was there 3 cameras then? Was it 3 cameras? Yeah. It was 3 cameras. Okay.
But it was live.
It was live.
Right.
So that's a different ball game.
When they count you down.
Yeah, buddy.
You are on television.
Yes.
Wow.
There.
Did you like that?
And well, I had done theater, so
Right.
so it was, I wasn't. It didn't scare me.
Sure.
They would. There was an announce booth on the stage, and they would roll the commercials in, and the announcer would talk on the stage during the show.
Wow.
Because there was no post. It was just
Live.
Straight. Yeah.
Cut it. That's it.
They
Yeah.
would roll the music in. They would roll the narration or whatever you call it.
Wow.
The announce. Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. And after that, nothing scared me. Nothing.
Oh yeah. Did you ever imagine like, okay, well, I've done this, now I want to do this, or it was just where the jobs took you, right? You weren't like looking at your career going, how do I want this to flow or anything like that? No, it was just job to job.
No, no. There was never a game plan.
Sure.
There was never a game plan. I graduated high school. I did the job in England. I did a little bit of episodic in the fall, and then I started Flame in the Wind in the winter of 64, 65. And then I went up to Bucks County Playhouse to do a production of Noel Coward's Hay Fever. And Alan King and the producers of Impossible Years came to see me in that on stage. And then I went to Broadway. And then,
I see.
Wow.
And then after I finished that, I came to California.
Oh, I see. Okay, great. So you had already
Got
had
it.
daytime in your pocket at that point.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'd
Okay.
already done it.
Right.
But I didn't do it for years.
Right.
I didn't do a soap for years, and I earned a living doing an occasional movie here and there, an occasional play here and there, and a bunch of episodic. And I did a Saturday morning kiddie show called Electra Woman and Dinah Girl with Deidre Hall, who's on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Deidre and I became good friends. And I would go over to her house, and there would be scripts all over her bed. Scripts. What is that? Oh, that's the week work. That's my the work I have to do this week. You have work to do. Yeah. And I thought, I like that. I like that lifestyle. That looks really good to me. You can plan a vacation. You know where your next meal is coming from.
Right.
You can
Imagine
put
that.
money away. You can save a little money.
Right.
And I thought, and I called my agent and I said, I'd like to do a soap opera. And he said, really, you would? And I said, yeah, I would. And he said, well, they had called you for a one-day job on Days of Our Lives, but I turned it down. And I said, oh no, why did you turn it down? Well, it was only one-day job and I didn't know you wanted to do a soap. But as a matter of fact, Gloria Monty is auditioning tonight. She's doing screen tests for a character on General Hospital called Gina Dante. And do you want to go and audition? I said, yeah, I do. He said, this agent says, let me see if I can get you in. So he calls up Gloria, who he has a relationship with. And the role of Gina Dante, she's a doctor and she's Latina, Italian, I don't know, but she's supposed to be dark haired and dark eyes, neither of which I have. But she saw me, she let me do the audition. I had no time to prepare for it. I had actually been spending the day moving a girlfriend of mine. A girlfriend of mine was moving and I was in overalls with work gloves and I was literally schlepping boxes and furniture when Dick called and said, you're testing for your General Hospital tonight. So I went right to the studio and the makeup artist, Bob Rappaport, was best friends with my neighbor. So he took me under his wing and did my makeup and got my hair done and
That's awesome.
cleaned the dirt off my face and from underneath my nails. And I didn't have the script. I didn't have time to learn it or anything. So it was that, again, it was that that sort of fearless leap of faith where I can't do it any better than I'm doing it. I can't. I've just been handed the script. All I can do is look at it. I looked up, I said to Gloria, I said, do you want me to ask for a line, or do you want me to look down and read it? And she said, just ask for a line. Okay. So I had looked at it a little bit while they were doing my makeup, and I was the 8th girl testing that night. And it was like, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night by then. And I just flew by the seat of my pants, and Gloria came out and said, you're not right for this role, but we're going to write you one. And she wrote Tracy Quartermaine.
That's amazing.
That's like the best thing that anyone could possibly say. Like, well, because at
well,
that
especially
point,
Gloria Monty,
well,
buddy.
sure, yeah.
That's a big deal in itself. So that's really cool.
I didn't have time to think about it. I didn't have time, you know, that secondary voice that comes in when we doubt ourselves and we wonder, and could we have done it better? And if only I had, and gee, I wish and I didn't have time to do that. You know, I call soap opera acting dive acting. You just dive, you just jump off the dock.
Right.
And it's very freeing. It's a lot like cold auditions. And this was a cold audition, basically.
Totally. Yeah.
And there's a liberation in cold auditions, because you can't, you know, you work at something at home and, oh my God, the third time you did it, it was really great. Oh, I want to do it like I did it the third time. And then you go in and you do the audition, and there's no way you can replicate what you did the third time when you were home.
Right.
So then you end up being a cheap imitation of what you were before. So cold readings and this screen test, there was no room for that. I couldn't doubt myself, because there was nothing to doubt. I just had to dive.
So Gloria wrote Tracy Quartermaine for what year was that?
He asks all the tough questions.
Huh? That was what?
78.
78. And then you left a couple years after, though, right?
I did.
Right. So why'd you leave? Okay. So you went to Days of Our Our Lives, I saw too.
I was on Days. I was on Guiding Light. I was on All My Children.
Well, it was just funny because
you were flip-flopping LA, New York then.
Yes.
It was funny because you were Wally's lover on Days, and then his mother on General Hospital.
And when he came, I spent 2 years flirting with Wally on Days.
Right.
Yes.
He comes to General Hospital, and that energy is still there. I'm still rolling my shoulders, batting my eyelashes at him, and I'm going, no, you're his mother. You're his mother. Stop. Don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Don't do that. It's not Kentucky.
No. It was really bad. It took a while to change. It took a while to adjust those gears.
Yeah.
I can imagine. I mean, were you excited about him coming on though? Because
very excited.
Yeah.
But
when he came into audition, I said, take your wedding ring off. He said, what? I said, take your wedding ring off. Oh, okay. And because I didn't want him to appear like a married grown-up man. He had to be my kid.
Sure.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Of course.
So if you ask Wally, he'll tell you.
Funny.
The first thing she said is take your wedding ring off.
That's funny.
So funny.
I want to talk a little bit about the city, because I think that show, even looking back, even because I visited the set when I was in New York, it was so ahead of its time that people weren't ready for this type of production in daytime. And I know that you were a producer on the show.
No.
So what? No?
No, I was a producer on Loving.
Oh, on Loving. Sorry. Oh, but Loving, the city took Loving space, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
I was
And
producer
then
on Loving, and then the city took over, and what's her name? Blonde actress.
Morgan Fairchild?
Yeah, right. And Morgan was the lead. And then after a year, she didn't want to re-up. And they came to me and they asked me if I would bring Tracy to the city. And
the way it looked,
it was amazing.
The sets, I was telling Bradford, I mean, I went to a set, it seemed like it was almost 2.5 stories high.
Yes.
Because you guys had cranes and you had all this stuff. And I don't know. I loved watching it because it had a little bit of a gritty film look.
Yep.
And you could tell all the big camera moves, and it didn't look like daytime at all. So
did it take a lot longer to film, to shoot? No. Interesting. Did you sense a different kind of vision when you were there?
Yes. Yeah, it was
Interesting.
wonderful. It was one set. There was one set, and it was a loft building in New York, and it was the first time they started shooting a show according to set. Like you would shoot all of Tracy's loft in
Sure.
one day for the
Right.
week. You would
Sure.
do all of Randy Mantooth's set for the
Mm.
week. And it was, I mean, now we all do that all the time.
Right. Of
Right.
course.
But this was the first time they ever did that. And it was, they would redress the same loft because theoretically all the lofts are the same in the building.
Right.
And the furniture would change. The light, the
That's so
windows would
funny.
stay in the same place. The front door would be in the same place. Just the furniture would change. It was wonderful. It was.
Well, that seems like
innovative.
you were shooting it pretty efficiently.
Yes.
Well, and
Yeah.
saving some money in a lot of ways without sacrificing creativity necessarily either, right?
No,
That's-
did not sacrifice creativity.
Wow.
It was definitely it's a loss. It was a loss.
And I recognized half the people. I was like, there's Laura Wright, there's Ted King, there's Lisa LaCicero.
Yep.
There's, I mean, it was, and Randy Mantooth, and it was, you know, and he was over on GH for a while too. So
And that was the
was
mid
cool.
90s.
yeah, I think it was like
Yeah.
95-ish, somewhere in there,
Yeah.
maybe.
Right.
6, 7 around in
And
there.
the vision, the people, the leaders of that show, who were the visionaries behind it?
Jean
or-
Daddario Burke was the executive producer. Nancy Stern, it was her look.
Cool. That was
Um,
cool, man.
I wasn't sure if maybe they went on and were able to create something else somewhere else that.
Jean went to produce All My Children after that.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Yeah. Did you like gallivanting between LA and New York? Did you have kids yet or no?
Yes, I did. I took them with me. Back and
Fun.
forth.
Yeah.
Back
Crazy.
and forth.
Crazy but fun, I
I
imagine.
like both. I mean, now I don't. Now I'm pretty much a West Coaster, but
Yeah.
I like both lifestyles. I like
Yeah.
Sure.
seasons. I like summer in the winter, and I like snow in the winter. I like them
Right.
both.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
And I'm lucky enough to do it.
well, sure, especially with a job, right?
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
that makes all the
Well, I
difference.
did days out here. I did hospital out here. I did All My Children there. I did the city there. I did Guiding Light there. So yeah, I got to taste it all.
Yeah. So when was it that you came back to GH, and what was what was your longest stint there? Was it the because you were
2003 to 2017, 14 years.
well, that's a long stint.
Sure.
Yes.
And forgive me, but did Tracy's relationship with Luke happen wasn't before that, right? Before 2003, did they have a relationship at all?
We knew each other.
Mm.
Right.
I don't remember when it turned romantic.
Sure.
I think Luke pursued her
Naturally.
because, well, no, because she's in Moneybags, I mean,
Oh, all right.
Luke
not
Luke was
because,
Right.
not
Luke
because she's devastating, but
Luke-
she's rich.
Luke was scheming, buddy. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
He was scheming.
I don't remember when it turned. I do remember waking up in a Vegas motel room.
Wait, on
married to him.
the show or in real
On the
life?
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify that.
I do remember there was a storyline where I woke up married to him.
Mm.
So it turned at some point, and I don't remember how it got there.
So looking back on General Hospital, your time there, what were the kind of the highlights that stick out in your head of a specific story, maybe, or what?
David Lewis,
Mm-hmm.
the original Edward Quartermaine.
Amazing.
Um,
Such a sweet guy too.
the Quartermaine family, Anna
Yeah.
Lee, Leslie Charlson,
Yes. Stewie
Stuart Damon,
Yeah.
all of the AJs.
All of the AJs. All of them. That's
And
right.
there was Another Day, Another Dawn. I mean, how
Yeah.
many Dawns were there?
There were a lot of Dawns. Yeah.
Who's Dawn?
Dawn was Leslie Charlson's illegitimate daughter by
Yeah.
I can't remember who.
I think,
aren't you a bastard son, Jason?
no, a bastard has no father, right?
A bastard is unmarried.
Oh, is
Oh,
that
right.
unmarried? Okay, I'm illegitimate. Susan Moore was my mother.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Oh, right.
So Monica's not my mom.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Right.
And
So
Susan Moore slept with one of my husbands on my wedding night.
oh, that's not nice, Susan.
Come
No.
on, Susan. Come on, Susan.
Come on, Susan, be better. Come on.
Yeah.
That's
Hashtag be
crazy.
better, Susan.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
So
It's Jane, it's so fun looking back at the Quartermaine stuff. It's one of the best. I'm so happy because, Gloria Monty did hire me.
Yes.
And that was that whole screen test thing was a circus anyway, that I'll tell you the long story one day, but she was awesome. And my first night there, Tony Geary kicked through the doors because he was upset about something, which was amazing. Like my first day, I came in and he storms through the doors. But coming in as a Quartermaine was so fun. Like because I didn't have a big family. So being on set with you guys
Right.
and the camaraderie and the joking and, sometimes the older people yelling at us, AJ and Jason in real life, and kind of showing us the ropes, like don't be a bunch of idiots. Let's go. We're here to do a job. Be professional.
Well, we also, we started in the late 70s, and that was when we used to shoot the show in script order. So you would start on page 1 and you would go all the way to page 90 in the course of a day, and you would do a scene in one set, and the camera would move away and do the next scene in the next set, and then it would come back. So the days were long.
Yeah.
We were sleeping in our dressing rooms for we would wrap it at 2:00 in the morning, and we'd be back on the set at 7 a.m. So we were sleeping in the studio.
Yeah. So
wow.
So would
so
they
we
set?
got close.
Yeah.
We got very close.
Yeah. So would they set the sets up where it was just kind of you could horseshoe around?
You zigzagged all across.
Oh,
the
you did
stage.
zigzag.
Oh.
Okay. So there was no rhyme or reason to where the sets were. Got
They
it. Okay,
tried
cool.
to, but
Yeah.
sometimes you just can't.
Yeah.
Of
Totally.
course. Imagine were you really working your material too, or was rehearsing
Rehearsing was serious. It was serious business.
Yeah.
You had a full camera blocking, and then you had a full dress rehearsal, and then you would have a note session. You would go into notes with the director, with Gloria, the executive producer, and then you would take your notes and you would go and you would tape. So everybody was in the building all day long. You didn't just come in to do your scenes and then you left. Everybody was there from 7:00 in the morning till 2:00 in the morning, because you ran the whole show from beginning to end like a stage play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was no getting out. You didn't get to leave. You had to be there.
Right.
So we got really close.
Yeah.
And by the way, not for nothing, there were no holidays. We had Thanksgiving there.
Yes, you're
We had
right.
Christmas Eve there. Because if there was a show that needed to be put on the air, you had to make one to put it on. There was no stockpiling episodes.
Right.
It
Right,
took
'cause you weren't-
5 days to shoot 5 shows.
Yeah.
And the only time you get a break is if there was a preemption. But they
Wow.
didn't. Rarely did they preempt. So
That's
I mean,
crazy. So you guys really had no like family vacations.
No.
Like,
No,
hey,
you put in for vacation. You would put in your contract.
right.
You would have 2 weeks vacation, and you would have
Yeah.
to put in for vacation months in advance. And they would write it in. They would write you out for whatever your 2-week vacation was.
Oof.
But sometimes with that
We worked on
affects
the 4th of July. We worked on Thanksgiving. We worked on Christmas Eve, because there was a show that had to get on the air.
Yeah.
and when you ask for vacation, did you ever worry, hey, like that might affect story if you're
One, it would affect story, and also you had to be prepared for them to say no. Nope, sorry.
Of course.
We need you,
course.
then we can't let you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That's a great job though.
I know, right?
I'll take it.
So
That's awesome.
Thinking about the relationships that your character had, like you had sparring partners, right? You had like the Quartermaines, and then when you came back in the 2000s, you had them, of course, but then you ended up having Luke. Like, what a really wonderfully balanced balanced of storylines where you have this like partner, your partnership with Luke, and then also get to kind of flit and play with the Quartermaines. Like that's a wonderful balance.
Luke actually Tony Geary tested for General Hospital with me. He
Mm,
tested for the role of Mitch Williams, who was the husband that Susan Moore slept with on my wedding night.
okay.
And again, he didn't get the job,
Wow.
but Gloria wrote Luke Spencer for him.
Amazing.
But we did this, we did an audition. Tracy's set had stairs, and there was a desk at the bottom of the stairs, and he was sitting at the bottom of the stairs, and Tony was doing tic-tac-toe. He was doodling, waiting for me to make my entrance and come down the stairs. He was doing tic-tac-toe, and I just walked over and took the pencil out of his hand and did an X, and then he did an O, and then I did an X, and he did an O. And it was just life. It was just, It was so instantly, he and I instantly trusted each other, instantly
so awesome.
followed where the other would lead.
Yeah.
And it took years. It took years for us finally to work together.
Right.
Because he was Luke and Laura, and they
Sure.
were a phenomenal couple.
Right.
And it took a long, long time till I got to have my turn with Tony, and it was well worth the wait.
Yeah, that guy's brilliant, man.
And thinking about, learning more about how you work, I mean, because obviously we work together and I sense that, but hearing you actually verbalize it and knowing how he works, it makes total sense. And, having you both be not just, so great at listening and reacting, but also not being the kind of actors that get tied up in like, I have this joke that I want to play halfway through the scene, and I know I'm going to do it no matter what. They can't stop me. I'm going to have this at their expense.
First of all, you're not doing that to either one of them.
Right.
I'm going to tell you right now, because I've worked with both of them, and you're not pulling any little tricks with these two. That's for sure.
But that must have
been. You can try.
It's not going to work.
You can try. It's not going to affect what Tony does or what I do.
No.
It's it takes the fun out of it. It's
sure.
It's that thing about dive acting. It's the thing that it's the free fall that makes it fun.
Yes.
If planning it too much, it takes the fun out of it.
Well, it does. And there's not a lot of actors who are like you, Jane and Tony, where you just never knew what was going to happen. And that's the best part of being in the moment.
Yes.
Like that forces the person you're working with to be in the moment, whether they want to be in the moment or not, because they have to pay attention to what you're going to do.
Agreed.
And that's what I love. I love it.
But it's not a stunt though. It comes out of what happens. Versus, because I love that.
But also this medium lends itself to that.
Sure.
When you're doing film, you can't be that, you can't be that free. You have to be much more structured, and you've got to match your two shot, and you've got to match your shoulders, and you got to put your hand up to your face at the same time, and you got to take a bite of the banana at the same time. And then,
I hate that.
Well, but here, we'll end with this because I know Jane's giving us her time. So when I did The Last Castle with James Gandolfini and Robert Redford was exactly what you just said. Gandolfini was Tony. He was the complete opposite. Like I could hear the continuity people like, that's not going to match. That's not going to match. Because he just did whatever he wanted every take on the same frame. It didn't matter. Like he was just doing whatever he wanted to do. Yeah. And it was riveting watching him because I'm like, wow, you could do something 8 times so differently.
Yeah.
And it was just such a pleasure to watch. But you're right.
It's very hard to edit.
It's so hard to edit. Yeah.
Also, there's an element of you can protect your performance by never doing the same thing twice.
100%.
Because there's always going to be something new and something good.
Correct.
When you reproduce what you did the last time, it can get labored and flat. Unless you're really, really good, and I'm not that good. I can be spontaneous, but I can't. I get restricted. It's not my favorite medium. Film is not my favorite medium.
Mine either. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good for one or two good takes. I'm great. But if you go into 5, 6, 7, 8, forget it.
I did a movie called One is a lonely number. And it was directed by a guy named Mel Stewart. And Mel Stewart believed in a lot of takes. And I worked with Janet Leigh and Trish Vanderveer. And he would do 40 takes on every setup.
Oh gosh.
On the master, on the 2-shot, on the close-up. And all you could do, all you could hope to do was get back to what you did the first time.
Right.
With all of these labored, flat, uninteresting takes in the middle. And finally, he goes, that's it, you got it. Son of a bitch, that's what I did the first time.
Right.
I can't work that way.
I can't either.
It's interesting. It just made me think of, and not to get too deep into actor talk, but you know, Meisner technique, repetition, right? And if you are in the same place, and if you don't have to do too many physical things, and you're not worried about matching your or whatever, and you can stay in the world and stay connected to your partner, you might find stuff in that repetition of the work. But gosh, if you have to, and it depends what kind of scene it is too. If it's just like you're dropping off a file from paralegal to partner, then who gives a crap? But
right.
but I've never had the experience of doing a film like that where I had that responsibility. So I don't know. I don't know if it happens like that, but I imagine it might.
At some point, there's got to be a number where the exploration stops.
Well, it's restrictive. Yeah.
It's got to be a number. I mean, you can't do something 100 times. I mean, it's like, I don't know. But that's what I love about what we do is
the spontaneity of it.
The spontaneity and knowing that, hey, this stuff I have is coming up after lunch. I got to start preparing for it emotionally and getting ready in the mindset where it's not just sitting on set for 17 hours, waiting for the knock on the trailer and going,
trying not to wrinkle and sweat. I mean, that's your trailer. Oh my God, I'm powdering myself down.
Totally.
Hoping my dress isn't all wrinkly. Yeah, no,
Yeah, that's what I love our medium. So.
Yeah. Film sounds to me a lot about like not just maintenance, but like stamina. Like I gotta.
Yes,
that's a good word.
Whereas
absolutely correct.
Whereas in daytime, you can really plot out and kind of not map out what you're going to do, but prepare your body, your mind, your emotional life for what is coming next.
Totally. Yeah.
And have a life, by the way.
And have a life. That's right.
That's the best part.
So how is your life now?
And raise kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
and
is
be
amazing.
there for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Plan vacations.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll take all that. We're doing all that right now.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And there's so many, I have young actor friends that missed the boat. This isn't there for them anymore.
Right.
Sure.
The number of soap opera actors, the number of soap operas, the number of roles there are for men and young men and women. It's just, when I came up, there was, 12 shows on the air.
Sure.
It was a great job. There was plenty of them. And it's done. It's, we're at the tail end of it.
Yeah.
We are so lucky, and I am so grateful to have had this life. It was a huge adjustment for me when I finished General Hospital, when I retired in 2017. It was the first time in my life I wasn't tethered to anything. You're in school, you have a career, you have your family, you get married, you have your children, and there's always something, and your job, right?
Right.
There's always something defining your day. There's always something demanding that you be someplace at some time to do something. And there I was in 2017 with nothing. I got no kids, I got no job, I got no school, I got no parents, there's nothing giving structure to my life. And it was very hard for a year. It was very, very hard to find meaning, to find purpose, to find, to just, to get past filling my day, just filling my day. And everything was self-motivated. Everything was self-motivated. There was nothing coming at me. When you live a life, have a career, raise a family, there's stuff coming at you.
Yeah.
This was everything from morning till night, day after day, my life was self-generated. And that was new and exhausting and boring. So
So how have you built some structure? Like, is that,
Yes, yeah, well, I did.
yeah.
It's out the window now. I mean,
Oh,
whatever structure I had, I haven't had since last March.
Sure.
oh, well,
But
of course. Right.
I think mostly I got more comfortable with the stillness.
Mm.
I got more comfortable with the stillness.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Wow.
Breathing and stuff.
Yeah.
Sitting in silence. And just
Smaller
listen.
bites. I
Yeah.
got more comfortable with smaller bites.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
being a
good for
single
you.
mother of 2 children and working a full-time job.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It just,
Yeah.
I get to take a break.
That's awesome.
Well,
Well,
you're,
I love seeing you back on the show. So don't
Yeah.
take too long of a break,
Yeah,
please.
right.
And I
Yeah.
know the fans do too. I mean, you're one of the favorites of all time. So
yes.
I love you and thank you, Jane, for joining us. And I know you're not the biggest fan of this medium, but thank you for
hope it
thank
wasn't
you for
too
doing
bad.
it.
Next time you dress up and get out of your car.
Yeah,
Okay, fair
you
enough.
son of a gun. All right, Jane Elliott, thank you so much.
Bye,
Thank you
guys.
so
Bye.
much, Jane.
Really nice to see you.
You too.
Take care.